recording. And I will welcome everybody to today's weekly roundtable. So we're here to talk about humanising transformation. And of course, we all know by now that humanising transformation is about turning projects and programs into people movements. Why? Because when we can do that, we can accelerate success. And that's what we want for ourselves and for our customers. So really super important. I think one of the other things as well is I've just come off a session with some trainee practitioners and qualified practitioners in our framework. And one of the things that we were also saying is that when you are humanising transformation, inadvertently, you're focusing on well-being. Inadvertently, you're focusing on the whole human and not necessarily that what we do. It's equally about who we are. So, you know, the benefits of understanding the technique of humanising transformation, the framework, the Dilyn Way for humanising transformation is super important. So without further ado, let us begin today's session. So what I want to do today is I want to take you through 5 strategies that that help us to humanise transformation. Now, what I will say is that a few weeks ago, I shared 5 strategies to humanise transformation, but they were general. They were general strategies. There is an infographic for that. So, you know, please, if you'd like to grab hold of that infographic, just let me know, and I'll get one of the team to send that through to you on email. What I wanted to do today was I wanted to add another 5 strategies on top of that around how we can humanise transformation. But what I wanted to do today was just talk to you about 5 strategies that are probably strategies we want to be aware of at the start of a transformation project or program. So when we're thinking about, you know, the strategy and, you know, the overall vision and strategy itself. So it's kind of like at the beginning journey that I wanted to focus on today. Now, as always, you all know that I love a good quote, and today's quote is something that comes from Korn Ferry, and Korn Ferry are doing a huge amount of work in the area of modern leadership at the moment. One of our practitioners is one of their senior principles around leadership. And this quote is lovely because what it does is it alludes to something so important when it comes to humanising transformation. Look at that. The role of the CEO is increasingly too hard for one person at the top of a traditional hierarchy to be able to meet in terms of all the challenges. Now, if I put that into plain English, what that actually says is there's more than one right answer for any given problem. And one person alone cannot know enough to make the best decision. So we've got to get more collective about this, right? We have got to democratize, we've got to decentralize. And I just think, wow, what a great quote to put us in the right mindset for, you know, talking about a few strategies for humanizing our change and transformation. So to begin with, the first 3 strategies that I want to share with you are really all about human readiness. They're all about not workforce readiness or customer readiness, but human readiness. And those of you that know my work and are in our Practitioner Leadership Academy know that I tend to use the word human a lot, because that allows us to connect with, you know, with who we are as people and society and community. And it's like, so what that it's a transformation project at work? We're still human beings. Come on. So really important for me, this bit. So
I think more and more, Mel, that I'm coming across people that just are ignoring the human side, and they're cost cutting, and they haven't worked out that actually the human element makes the project more successful. And if they cut the cost, they'll suffer in the long run. But it's blowing my mind how I'm coming across it all the time.
Yeah, and actually, it's a really good point that you raised there, Dawn. And you know, I think for us as practitioners and trainee practitioners, as modern leaders in the world of humanising transformation, it's how do we gather, you know, some really, really fundamental 3 or 4 questions that we can, you know, ask and challenge people when it comes to that, because people don't know what they don't know. And when it comes to the human side of transformation, it's messy. It's usually thought of at the start. It's usually thought of midway through or at the end. So change management, let's put some process in to pull or push people on the journey, or nudge. Then we think about capability and skill, and that usually comes, further towards the end. And that really is all about knowledge transfer, but it's not really about embedded. Nowhere in that schema do you hear the word mindset, do you hear the words identity, and equally, do you hear the word that I've got up here on the screen, which is community. Now, the interesting thing about our framework is this: we tend to favour community work and descriptors rather than culture. It's not to say that we don't believe in culture. We absolutely do. However, in our work, when we have worked with really complex organizational systems to help them humanize transformation, the reality is this: there are different cultures all over the organization. The IT team might be 3 different cultures. The systems architect might have one particular kind of culture and little tribal culture. The software developers might have a different, more agile, different culture. We've got subcultures across our entire organization. For us, it is far more potent for us to see if we can unite the organization on community. So what I wanted to do today is talk to you all and just introduce you to what we call the community index. And I'm just going to just come out of this for a moment and go on to my, where are we at? Here we go. Is go on to this here, and hopefully, can you all still see my screen? Yeah. Can you see? So, okay. So this is what we call a community index template. Now we like to measure the idea of community. We like to measure the community index of an organization or even a team when at the start of a transformation project that we are humanizing. And what I want to do is I wanted to show you all today a little workshop that we do with teams and with organizations. And essentially, we have 2 main axes. We have an axis which is feel good, which is our blue left-hand side vertical axis. How good do people feel in the team, in the department, in the organization? And on the bottom, we have the gray axis, the horizontal axis. How connected are people in that team, in that department, and in that organization? And what we do is we allow people the space and time to measure their own sense of how good they feel and how connected they are. Now, what I'll do is I'll share with you what those 2 things mean to us in the index. So the feeling good index is based on 3 quotients. The first one is how well I am able to achieve success. So think about that. How well are you able to achieve success? Because that is a major factor to how good you feel. The second one is my value is understood and voice heard. Now, I don't want to pick anybody out, but I know that there's somebody on this call today that we've had some conversations offline and we've talked about this particular one. And it's really important because if your value is not understood and your voice is not being heard, it really does impact on how good you feel. And the third quotient for feeling good is how safe I feel to share truth, how safe I feel, so psychological safety. Now, people talk about psychological safety and they talk about authenticity and they talk about give people space and this, that, and the other. But what do they mean? That's what I love about this community index assessment, because these are statements that really mean something to everybody in the organization. So what we do is we get people to think about these 3 statements and we ask them literally to just get one of these wee little sticky notes and literally just give themselves 2 scores. So the score is, let me just go out a little bit so that we can all see this. We ask them to think about on a score of 1 to 10, how true is that for me in my current organization? So I might feel that for I'm able to achieve success, I might feel that that is actually quite high, because in my organization, I really do believe that I am able to achieve success. The conditions, the environment, my teammates, everybody's really into it. So I would probably pop that up here. But the next thing I want to do is I also want to ensure that I understand and others understand how important that is to me. How important is my ability to achieve success? How important is that to me? Now, that is massive for me. I'd say it's right over here. And all of a sudden, I have just put my first sticky in the right place. And inside that now, I can actually give an explanation for what I mean by that in that area. So that's how we get people to play around with this grid. So from 0 to 10 is how true it is for you in your current system in terms of people, conditions, and environment. And then low to high is how important it is to you. And I did, actually last Thursday, I did a big exercise with a team on this. And it was absolutely amazing, because the first thing we did was we got them all to map this out. And then we got them into small breakout groups just to start discussing it. And we had sticky notes all over the place. And it was phenomenal, because one of the individuals came to me at the end of the workshop and said, that is the most valuable and action orientated conversation we have had at a human level in terms of what we need to do to change to make our department a better place in a very, very long time. So the simplicity of the community index is really, really quite powerful. The other thing I just want to do is just quickly share with you the 3 elements, the 3 sub-points under connected. So when we say, how connected are you? What are we talking about? The first one, whoa, it's a biggie. I feel I belong here. How much of a sense of belonging do you have where you are at the moment? It's a heck of a question to ask, isn't it? The second one is, am I being supported, and do I feel that I support others? Now, that's an interesting one, because we could probably break that out into 2, and sometimes people do, because you might feel that you're supported, but you might not necessarily feel that you are supporting enough. So you can break that one down even further. And the third one, which is really important because it's very, very tangible in terms of technology and data access and access to people, is I am networked. Can I access the data and the people that I need to be as effective and successful as possible in my role? And it is important to everybody in a modern business to be able to access the data and the people that they need to be effective in their role more and more. So those are the 3 measures that we have for connected. And then literally all we do is gather this data. And when we have got this data, wow, do we have a wealth of knowledge to be able to start thinking about strategically some of the implications of humanizing transformation. And again, what I would say is, this is possibly not something that I would say we do as part of our transformation. This is part of the discovery data we want before we design the transformation, right? So really, really, really important. That's our community index. If you'd like me to give you access to that, just let me know, and I will certainly give you access to that mural. So that's the first of the 5 things. And I told you that the first 3 things are all about human readiness. The first thing is, what sense of community is there in our organization? Forget about culture, community. Think about community. The second thing is leadership. Are we aware of the leadership profiles in our organization? Do we know our leaders from a profiling perspective? Super important, because whatever we're designing from a humanizing transformation perspective, if we don't genuinely understand the leadership profiles, then we could be designing something that won't go anywhere fast. So it's really important for us at the start to understand our leadership profiles. Now, those of you that are aware of our framework and our training are already qualified practitioners will know that there is not one profile of a modern leader. Every single one of us is unique as a modern leader. However, modern leadership does cluster into 4 broad profiles. And these are the 4 broad profiles: the settler profile, the pioneer, the explorer, and the voyager. I mean, there is another one, which is what we call developing, but that's by and by for today. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to understand what the reality is of how many settlers have we got? Do we have pioneers? Have we got explorers? Are there any voyagers in our organizational in terms of leadership profile? We want to know that. And at the same time, we also want to know, do we have potential settlers, pioneers, explorers, and voyagers? So do we have them in evidence? Have we got potential in others? And when we talk about profile of modern leadership, we're not necessarily just talking about the leaders by label. We also want to really look more broader around, people across the system. So it's really profile that is the most important word here, not label, right? So very briefly, what I want to do is I just want to explain these 4 profiles to you. So I'm actually going to start with the explorer, because voyager is a little bit different, and I'm going to leave the voyager to one side for a moment. So let's talk about the explorer. So given, if we have the analogy of voyaging on the water and the discovery of new territories, the explorer is the individual within our system that is willing to step forward into uncharted territory, and they don't know where they're going. There is no defined pathway in front of them. So they are out on the water and they are discovering. Once they discover land, they want to just, say, we've discovered land, and that's it. They're bored. They want to move on. They want to move on. They want to go and continue exploring and finding new lands. So what do? They hand over to the pioneer. And the pioneer is the person that goes onto the land and starts experimenting and starts thinking, okay, well, we've got this new territory, we've got this new land. Where might we be able to best cultivate for food? Where would be the best terrain for us to build and colonize a community for people to live in? So they start experimenting with things, and they start thinking about how they can bring things together to innovate and to understand whether that new territory fits for the uniqueness of their organization. Now, when they've been they've worked out whether we can drink the water, where we can cultivate, where we can colonize, all of those things, they're also bored and they want to move on to the next thing. They want to follow the explorer. So the pioneer hands over to the settler, and the settler is the leader in our system that has got the trust of the masses. So they are closer to the workforce. They are closer to our customers. And what that basically means is they're the people that say, the explorers have found new territory. It's a new identity, it's a new product, it's a new technology. It's been identified. The pioneers have experimented with it, and you've probably been a part of that as well. It's now time for us to really go and live in that product, live in that new technology. So come with me and we will co-design where we put the house, how many houses we want. Do we need shops? What kind of shops? So you co-design the landscape of that new territory together. That's what the settler is. What we say in any given transformation is, in an ideal situation, which is why leadership development is so important in our strategies right at the very start, is this: we're probably looking for somewhere around about 40% of our of settler presence in our management and leadership community. Really want to see if we can aspire to that. Our pioneers are less. We don't want that many pioneers because they are the experimenters. So probably talking about maybe 20%. And then the explorers, even less again, because these are the outliers. These are the people that are willing to step into that uncharted territory, right? So we only want a few of these explorers. So we can see now how the profile of a modern leader isn't just conforming to all of our leaders must be like this, all of our leaders must have these capabilities and competencies. What we're recognizing in a modern system is that there are different profiles required in order for us to navigate and evolve. The Voyager is an interesting one. I've had the privilege of profiling and working with a few Voyagers in my time. And what you can see at the bottom here, because this is just a cut-off version of our maturity index, but the level 7, the Voyager leader, is the leader that wakes up in the morning and isn't necessarily focused on the transformation of the system, the organization. They want to change the world. That's why they're in a different place. They're the Voyagers that really want to change the world. Now, they might be in your system. It might be you. What's really important is for us to recognize the Voyagers and to understand how to work with them. Really, really important. For those of you that understand these will know that there's a lot of depth behind each one of these. But in terms of today's session, I just want to very, very briefly give us those. The third element of human readiness, the third strategy that we should be employing in our humanizing transformation journey, is our human accelerators. Now, there are role models and there are outliers, but there's also one other bit. But it's really important for us right at the very start to start thinking about where are the accelerators. And the accelerators are the natural role models. And what I mean by a natural role model is, who are the people in our systems that if they say Friday night pub at 5 o'clock, you know that there's going to be a group of people there. You know, when they say we're going to do this team building exercise to raise charity on Saturday, you know that people will be there because they're natural role models. They're really, really important individuals for us to identify and wrap our arms around. Equally, we want to identify those outliers. So there will be natural outliers as well as role models. And again, what I mean is the natural people that are the explorers and potential Voyagers. Who are the people that do speak out? Who are the people that do lean in and innovate even when they don't need to? Where are they? So it's really important for us to identify them and wrap our arms around them as well. And equally, our champions. Who are the champions? Now, we talk about champions a lot in digital transformation, and you think about a champion as a super user. Yeah, they are. But the champions are the people that genuinely believe in the future of the organization, the promise, the purpose of the product, the program that you're working on. These are they're the believers. That's what's really important about the champions, and they can be anywhere. And those champions will look to the outliers and the role models. And if we can identify these 3 clusters in our organization and bring them together, identify these clusters and invite them into our transformation projects and programs, then, oh boy, can we accelerate and humanize our transformation. We have a customer at the moment, and what we've been doing over the last 12 months is helping them to reposition lots of projects and programs into humanized transformation projects and programs. And we've been identifying and nurturing and working with role models and outliers and champions. We have also been developing and profiling leaders as well. So, you know, we've been doing that as well. But what's interesting is now we've got these 3 clusters working together. They are invited to the table of change and transformation. Wow. There are some amazing innovations that are happening in that organization, and it is a public sector organization. They have the amount of first tickets they've got in terms of the work that they've been doing is just amazing, absolutely beautiful. And that is part of the beauty of humanizing transformation, is that you can innovate instead of improve. So those are the 3 readiness elements. So when we're thinking about strategies for humanizing transformation, let's think about sense of community. Can we measure it? Let's think about the profiles of our leaders, and let's think about those 3 clusters of natural role models, natural outliers, and those champions. But the 4th strategy is to look beyond the obvious. And this is so incredibly important, because it's so easy for us to follow a methodology when it comes to change and transformation, isn't it? I'm doing it the agile way. You know, this is a waterfall project or program, but actually it's not about the process and the methodology. What we need to be doing is we need to be thinking about our frame of reference, so that we can, when everybody else might be looking at this image and seeing the profile of a woman, we can see the profile of a woman, and we can see a man with a moustache. We can see it, we can look beyond the obvious. It is important for us to take on board this role right at the very start. So a strategy for humanizing transformation is always for us to look beyond the obvious. And there's 2 things that we can do to do that. Number 1 is our own frame of reference. How are we ourselves, in our habits and our own practice, making sure that we are looking forward into the future for possibility, and we are looking out and wide across the world at what's happening? So we want to understand what the future potential holds, emerging technologies and data. We also want to look out towards society and what's happening at a global level. That might not have a direct relation to our transformation program, but they feed our frame of reference. When we feed our frame of reference, we build our resilience. When we build our resilience, we build our courage. When we have courage, we are able to challenge the status quo. We are able to bring a different lens into things. We are able to see beyond the obvious. Really, really important for us to think about our own frame of reference as a modern leader. The second thing to share with you is cross-sectoral collaboration. Now, this is something that we work on with in our Practitioner Leadership Academy, when we are working with practitioners in the world of transformation and projects and programs. And there's an element in the program where we talk about how do you reposition a transformation program from vision and strategy into people movements. And one of the things to do is to think about missions to moonshot. And missions to moonshot is part of a methodology, a philosophy almost, out of the University College London and the work of the department that is managed by a lady called Mariana Mazzucato. So when I say cross-sectoral collaboration, the simplicity of this is collaborate across sectors before you write your strategy. Don't write your strategy, don't design your strategy, and then identify your projects and programs, and then identify whether there are any other sectors or any other collaborative opportunities for you, because it's too late. What you want to be doing is you want to be habitually thinking about how you can bring cross-sectoral collaboration into your conversations, into your thoughts before they even emerge as strategies and transformation projects and programs. Now, I worked with an organisation up in Lancaster, and it was really interesting how I was working with the head of IT and their department. And we talked about cross-sectoral collaboration, and we knew that transformation was something that the organisation was really keen on, but they had a lot of efficiencies that they wanted to work on first, and that's fine. That was their decision. So what we were doing as part of our getting them ready for humanising transformation was we worked with our IT team to see what their possibilities and potential was around technology and data and this, that, and the other. And what happened was, they engaged in two areas. They engaged in different industries within the local community, like general industries, so manufacturing. They looked at retail. So they just started creating a network of leaders and other IT leaders in the local community. The other thing they did was they went to the university, and they started to build relationships with the university around technology and artificial intelligence and data science. And what was lovely was they were gathering so many different ways, so many new ideas around transformation, that by the time it came to the design and the delivery of the strategy, they had such a wealth of cross collaborative ideas and relationships that they were able to really bring a much stronger sense of innovation to the party. It was a really, really amazing thing for us to see. So cross-sectoral collaboration is super important. The fifth thing, which is, I can't say it's the most important out of the 5 strategies that I want to share with everybody today, but is really important, is this idea of experimentation. And what I mean by experimentation is this: so often when we're thinking about transformation strategies, we think about which way do we want to go? What's the right way to go? And if we provide options, more often than not, the options that we present in our strategy are like, this is the really expensive option, this is the really cheap option, and this is the median option that we really want us to go with. I'm not talking about that. But what we do need to do, what we need to think about in our transformation strategies is, how many right answers are there? How many right answers are there? So to any given problem, there are multiple right answers. And what we want to do is we want to gather data. So we want to green light these experiments, high volume experiments, green light them, gather the data. You have got truth and fact data to put into your strategy. So you might be saying, well, that organization over there has done this, therefore that's our business case. That's the business case for us to say yes to what we want to do over here. That's called analogous thinking. Now that's fine to support your strategy, but it shouldn't be the reason why the organization says yes to it. The reason that the data that the organization should be using to say yes to the strategy should be based on, we have conducted these experiments and the data that's come out is, these things don't work for our uniqueness, but these things do. So it's that ability to be experimental right at the very start of your strategy. And what you do is, it means that you set up your strategy for guaranteed success. And I don't know about you, but I've been involved in a lot of change and transformation programs in my time, and I can guarantee you that it's either win or lose, it's right or wrong. And if there is failure, goodness me, everything that we do to apply rules and risk and governance and compliance to ensure that it's successful, which is on time and on budget, is all the stuff that we do, or all the stuff that people around us try to do to thwart our ability to deliver successful transformation. So the key thing here is, if we can get into the practice, and if we can start thinking about how we bring this idea of experimentation into our practice and our work. And by the way, experimentation is low cost and high volume. Low cost, low risk, high volume. Probably more often than not, no cost. So it's just something that we need to be integrating into our practice. But if we do that, what we do is we create a funnel. And into the top of the funnel, we put all of our experiments. And out at the bottom of the funnel are the experiments that work, that we can put as truth data and insights data into our strategies. And the bits that don't work don't feel like failure anymore, because it's not just one success and one failure. We've got multiple options. Honestly, experimentation is amazing when we put it into our practice of modern leadership and transformation. And of course, I've said it a few times today already, haven't I? How many right answers are there? If we can keep coming back to, how many right answers are there to this? How many different ways can we do this? Really super important. All of that gives us something that is a wonderful thing. It gives us the ability to shift vision, strategy, and goal language, which is all connected to the organization and projects and programs, things, stuff we do, into moonshots, missions, and beliefs, connection with human, people movements. And this is something that we work on. The transition from the left to the right is a really important part of the Dilyn Way framework and humanizing transformation in our academy. But that is really what you're after. And I've given a very, very high level view of those things today. So those are the 5 strategies that I wanted to share with you today. The first 3 were all about human readiness, that community index, that leadership profile, and really that sense of, let me go back so we can see it, that sense of the accelerators, those 3 clusters of people in our organization. Where are they? Embrace them, bring them in, open the door to transformation, let them be a part of the projects and the programs. Look beyond the obvious. It's our job as projects and program directors, as transformation leaders, to look beyond the obvious. And the way to do that is to increase our frame of reference as a habit, and to start thinking about how we can network at a cross-sectoral way so that we can collaborate and really bring those into play. And of course, the final one is experimentation. Those are the 5 strategies I want to share with everybody today. We've got a few minutes, so we've got a few more minutes to go before the end of today's leadership roundtable. But suffice to say, if there is anything that you've heard today and it resonates with you, of course, it is all information, it's all content that is shared in our Practitioner Leadership Academy, where we train practitioners like yourselves, mentors and coaches like yourselves, and modern leaders like yourselves on how to humanize transformation, to become agile at scale, and of course to accelerate success. And accelerate success is not just about on time and on budget, it's about happier people, it's about fostering community and connection. And we know that when people are happier, we are 26% more likely to be profitable as a result as organizations. So if any of that has been relevant or has resonated with you, then please do think about coming on to a one-to-one strategy session with myself, where we can chat about where you are at now, where you want to be, and how potentially the Dilyn Way framework, the Humanising Transformation framework, might be able to support you to get there. So that's what the strategy session is all about. If you haven't already booked one, then please do, and just DM me in the feedback, because I'm going to be sending the video of this out to you later on today, if not tomorrow. So you'll be able to respond to that if you'd like a strategy session. And as always, just very quickly, banana skins. Every Wednesday I give you banana skins. I love banana skins. What is it? Make sure you don't slip up on these 2 things, please, please, please. The first thing is conformity. Don't conform. Don't conform to the being purist in terms of a methodology. Don't conform to the rules of the system, because the rules of the system are probably, a lot of them will be legacy. And also beware of your own habits. So be open to challenging your own habits, because sometimes our habits force us to default to a certain way of thinking. Our own belief system can force us into, maybe not being so courageous, etc., etc. So think about those 5 strategies and try not to slip up on these banana skins today. Alrighty, so there we go. We are just on time for today's leadership roundtable, and 5 wee strategies that you might want to think about in your practice and at the start of any transformation vision or strategy in order for you to humanize it. So I'm going to come into the room and just ask very briefly if there are any questions, any thoughts around what I've shared this morning with you.
Loads of thoughts spinning through my head, obviously. And I would have thought the biggest challenge that is faced is about the closed mindset of those people at the top, who would not allow even the thoughts around this, let alone how they would allow this into their organisation. And we've had those conversations previously, as you said. And they're so many people are closed, and so it's how to open up that conversation to then allow it all to happen within the organisation. That's the I would suggest is the biggest problem.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, and that is a really, really important comment to share. In an ideal situation, I think we would be green lighting transformation, knowing that the leaders are on board with it. But that's not the reality, is it, Dawn? Which is really what you're alluding to. I think the answer to that question is really important, though, because the answer to the question is you don't want to try and change other people, because if the door is closed, the door is closed with a particular individual. So there's two things that we should be doing. The first thing is we should be really digging deep into our own role model leadership so that we can be the change, because that gives them an opportunity to see and trust some of the future in our own behavior. So they might, they might just open the door, or at least unlock it. And the other thing is go to where the door is already open. Go to where the door is already open, because it's not good for us in terms of our own psychological safety and our own well-being to keep banging on a door that's locked.
Yeah,
I think it's really important. So really, really good question. Really, really good question, and an important one. There's some beautiful work at a systems level that the New Zealand Innovation Lab did, which is around, their own journey of pain towards the realization that knocking on the door that's closed, even though it's the right door, knocking on it if it's closed is not the best way to do it, because you're knocking your head against a brick wall. There are other things that you can do, and the first thing is how you serve yourself, so that they can see it and evidence it. And the second thing is, where is the door open to take another route in. Excellent.
Fair enough.
Right. Brilliant. So that's the end of today's leadership roundtable. I am so delighted that you've been able to come and join me today. I know that we've had a change in time, so I feel really bad. And I don't know whether you've heard the ping, ping, ping in the background, but I actually think that there's been quite a few emails that have said, what's happening with the time? So I might have to send a few emails out to a few people with some apologies and the recording. We will send the recording out to you, of course, today, and the audio. So if you're going for a walk a little bit later, you'll be able to listen back to the audio as well as the video. And all I can say is have a great rest of the week, and I look forward to seeing you at some stage in the future. Dawn, I know that you and I are actually going to see each other a little bit later on today, which is even better. So thanks everybody for joining. Thank you, Billy-Anna. We haven't said hello, but I really appreciate you joining us today, and have a fantastic rest of the week, everybody. And humanize transformation. Think of yourself. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.